Kneeling at the threshold. The camels kneel, the evening descends, and the soul learns to wait. We return to the well. The servant has arrived at the outskirts of Haram after 20 days of desert crossing. He has carried the full tour of Abraham's house across 500 miles of Syrian steppe and desert. He has loaded and unloaded the camels 20 mornings and 20 evenings. He has prayed in the silence of the journey, has spoken to no one about his mission, has been formed by the long solitude of the road into something quieter and deeper and more precise than the person who left Canaan. And now he has arrived. Not inside the city. Outside it. At the threshold. And the first thing the text records is not a speech, not a plan, not a strategy. It is a posture. Vayavrekha Jemalim, he made the camels kneel. The archaeology of the sacred stop. The spatial detail of verse 11 is precise and theologically charged. He positions the camels Michetz La'ayar, outside the city, Al-Beha Mayam, by the well of the waters, La'at Yerav, at the time of evening. 3 locators, a boundary, a source, and a threshold are. Together they describe one of the most carefully chosen vantage points in the entire Hebrew narrative. Outside the city. This is not a failure to arrive. This is a deliberate epistemic boundary choice. Cities in the ancient world were enclosed, structured, socially coded environments in which every person played a defined role and every interaction was mediated by social hierarchy. Inside the city, behavior is performative, calibrated for social expectation, shaped by the presence of important witnesses. Outside the city, at the well, behavior is functional, necessary, unguarded, revealing of what a person actually is when the social performance is stripped away. The servant has studied the phenomenology of discernment. He positions himself where authentic behavior is most visible, not in the formal halls of Bethuel's household, but at the communal water source where daily life, genuine need, and unmonitored character converge. True character, the attached documents wisely observe, is most reliably revealed in unstructured moments rather than formal settings. The servant chooses the unstructured moment deliberately. This has profound implications for discernment in every dimension of life. If you want to understand who a person genuinely is, observe them in the unguarded moments, in how they treat those who cannot benefit them, in how they respond to unexpected inconvenience, in how they behave when no one important is watching. The servant's positioning outside the city is the behavioral scientist's choice as much as the mystics, go to where the data is uncontaminated by performance. By the well of the waters. The well, Haber, is where the community's actual life converges around actual need. Water was not a decorative convenience in second millennium Haram. It was survival. Every jar drawn from the well represented a calculation of household necessity, how much water was needed to keep human beings and animals alive through another day of Syrian heat. The well was the social epicenter, the legal center, the marriage negotiation center of ancient communal life. Wells appear in scripture at every point where divine appointment intersects with human need. Isaac met Rebekah at a well. Jacob met Rachel at a well. Moses met Zipporah at a well. Jesus met the Samaritan woman at a well. The well in the biblical narrative is always the axis mundi of covenant encounter, the place where heaven and earth, divine purpose and human thirst, consistently meet. The wells at Haram were almost certainly constructed of large basalt blocks quarried from volcanic outcroppings approximately 30 kilometers north of the city. The basalt blocks were dressed with iron tools and laid in concentric circles descending to depths of between 8 and 20 meters, depending on the local water table. A typical well at Haram would have had an interior diameter of approximately 1.5 meters, wide enough for a person to descend by rope for cleaning and repair. The stone trough placed beside the well, the Rahat, mentioned explicitly in verse 20, was a separate structure, typically a single large block of basalt or limestone, carved hollow, approximately 2 meters long, with a drainage hole at one end. Animals could drink from both sides simultaneously. This rahat held approximately 200 liters. Filling it for 10 deeply thirsty camels would require filling and carrying a 20-liter ceramic jar between 40 and 65 times, making 40 to 65 trips from the well to the trough. Vayavrekha Malim. The blessing that lives in the kneeling. He caused the camels to kneel. Vayavrekha Malim. The verb is hipha, the causative stem of the root barak. And here the Hebrew text opens one of its most beautiful phonetic and theological punning structures. The root barak has two distinct but overlapping semantic fields. In its physical bodily use, barak means to kneel, to crouch, to prostrate. The knee in Hebrew is barik, from the same root. In its spiritual covenantal use, barak means to bless, and berakha is the blessing. The pool of water, bricha, shares the same root. And the Hebrew consonants encode within their three letters the entire theological nexus. The posture of kneeling, the act of blessing, and the place of still water are all the same word, the same gesture, the same reality in different registers. When a servant causes the camels to kneel, he is performing the physical action that enacts the spiritual truth. Blessing is found in the kneeling, not in the pushing forward, not in the pressing through by force, in the lowering, in the stopping, in the posture of surrender that allows the blessing to arrive because the striving has been released. The ancient Jewish cantors placed a tipture cantillation mark over vayavrek, a gently falling, sighing accent that carries the word in a long descending breath, like the sound of something heavy being set down at last after a very long carrying. The camels kneel, and in their kneeling the sonic texture of the text breathes a sigh of relief and blessing. The weight is down. The mission has arrived at the place of stillness before the encounter. The documents you have provided identify in this kneeling a profound psychological parallel, the regulation of the nervous system before the crucial task of discernment. The servant does not rush from the road to the prayer to the encounter without an interval. He settles what is under his care first. He attends to what has been entrusted to him, the animals, the cargo, the mission's material infrastructure, and brings it to rest before he brings himself to prayer. This reflects a principle of ordered responsibility that has both practical and contemplative wisdom. Attend faithfully to what is in your hand, and clarity will meet you in the place of that faithfulness. Many people seek divine guidance while neglecting the current responsibilities that are already theirs. The servant models the opposite. He completes the care of what he already holds, then opens himself to receive what is coming. For those who carry the wound of over-functioning, those who have learned to keep moving perpetually, to never rest, to process grief and need through the anesthetic of constant activity, the kneeling camels are a permission and an invitation. Even the strongest beasts of burden kneel. Even the animals whose entire biological purpose is to carry things must, at the appointed moment, put the load down and rest. The kneeling is not the end of their usefulness. It is preparation for the usefulness that comes after the water has been drunk. You are allowed to kneel. You are allowed to stop. You are allowed to set down the load before the prayer, and let the prayer happen in the stillness of an unencumbered soul. Learn at Erev. The sacred acoustics of the evening hour. Learn at Erev, at the time of evening. This is not a casual time stamp. It is a richly layered temporal and theological designation. The word Erev comes from a root meaning to mix, to interweave, to blend. Evening is the hour of the mixing, the hour when light and darkness interweave, when the harsh definitions of midday begin to soften, when the world moves from the clarity of the afternoon into the mysterious ambiguity of the threshold between day and night. In the Jewish liturgical tradition, the new day begins at evening. The Sabbath begins at Erev Shabbat, the evening that precedes the day of rest. The creation narrative itself is structured with evening preceding morning, and there was evening and there was morning, one day. Evening is not the end of the day in the Hebrew imagination. It is the beginning of the next day. It is the place where the old passes away and the new becomes possible. The servant's prayer occurs at the threshold of a new beginning, at the literal starting point of a new day, the new day that will bring the encounter with Rebekah and with it the new trajectory of the covenant. The Masoretic cantillation mark over the phrase Lo et Erev is a tipcher, the same softly sighing, gently falling accent we noted over Vayavrik. The sonic environment of this verse is one of sustained, descending gentleness. The camels kneel with a tipcher. The evening arrives with a tipcher. The universe is softening. The hardness of the journey and the heat of the day and the urgency of the mission are all yielding to something quieter, more receptive, more open. The servant has been formed by the 20 desert days into exactly this quality of soft, attentive readiness. He and the evening are in the same key. Modern chronobiology, the scientific study of biological rhythms, provides a remarkable empirical confirmation of this ancient liturgical and practical wisdom. Research has established that in the late afternoon and early evening hours, cortisol levels decrease and the prefrontal cortex, which governs analytical, evaluative, performance-oriented thinking, begins to relax its dominance. The default mode network, associated with imagination, integration, deep processing, and what psychologists call mentalization, becomes more active. The brain in the evening is literally more permeable to insight, more open to intuition, more capable of recognizing subtle signals and integrating disparate experiences into coherent meaning. The ancient world knew this experientially. The servant's alignment with the evening hour is the alignment of a soul that has learned to work with the rhythms that God has embedded in the created order rather than against them. The assonance between Be, the well, and Erev, the evening, creates in the Hebrew text a sonic rhyme that is not mere poetic decoration. The well and the evening echo each other in sound, and the text invites the listener's ear to register this echo as a perceptual integration. Place and time are harmonized into a unified field of readiness. The servant does not simply arrive at a place. He arrives at a moment. The place and the moment are one. This is what the Greek tradition calls kairos, the time that has been gathered from all the preceding chronos moments into a single instant of fulfilled meaning, where everything that has been preparing is suddenly ready to converge. And there is an acoustic dimension to this moment that the documents you have shared point toward with precision. Wells amplify an echo. A voice spoken near a well carries differently, resonating within the stone cylinder of the shaft, carried by the water below, returned to the surface in a slightly altered form that has touched the depth. The servant's prayer, which he is about to pray at the eye of the water, will enter this acoustic environment and travel into the depth. Teresa of Avila, in her interior castle, speaks of prayer as drawing water from a well, where repeated effort eventually gives way to the living spring that flows without effort. The servant's prayer is brief but it is deep. It does not rely on length or eloquence. It relies on the depth from which it is drawn, the depth of 20 desert days of interior formation, the depth of a lifetime's faithful service, the depth of the identity of a man whose very name means God is my help. The women going out. Variability within repetition and the controlled field of differentiation. The servant positions himself at the well at the precise hour when the daughters of the men of the city, Benot and Sheha-ir, are going out to draw water. The participle yodso, going out, is present and continuous. They are in the process of going out. They have been going out at this hour every evening for years. They will continue to go out tomorrow and the day after. This is the world in its ordinary, predictable, habitual rhythm. And this is the discernment genius of the servant's positioning. He has placed himself inside a controlled field of differentiation. Many individuals performing the same action at the same time in the same place. This is the environment where character is most precisely revealed. When behavior is similar on the surface, character is disclosed in nuance rather than in action type. The servant is not looking for someone who does something completely different from everyone else. He is looking for someone who does the same thing everyone else is doing, drawing water, with a different quality of inner orientation that will make itself visible in one specific behavioral nuance, the voluntary, spontaneous, uninstructed extension of service beyond the explicit request. The documents you have shared describe this beautifully as a structured filter mechanism. The servant does not ask for spectacle. He does not ask for a supernatural sign that violates the laws of nature. He asks for a small, repeatable behavior that reveals deeper disposition. This is the most sophisticated kind of discernment. Small voluntary acts under minimal pressure reveal more than grand declarations. The behavioral consistency principle in contemporary character psychology confirms this with extensive empirical evidence. The most reliable predictor of genuine character is not how a person presents in formal evaluated contexts but how they behave spontaneously in unstructured, unobserved, low-pressure moments. The servant has positioned himself at exactly the kind of moment where this kind of revelation is possible. If this teaching has entered a place in you that other things have not reached, if the word has named something in you that has been waiting to be named, healed something that has been waiting to be healed, ignited something that has been waiting to be ignited, then let it continue its work. Do not hold it at the level of the mind alone. Let it descend. Let it become the thing your body knows, your spirit trusts, your daily life expresses. Let it change how you pray, how you serve, how you receive, how you wait. Let the servant's posture become your posture. Let Rebecca's generosity become your generosity. Let the well of the living God become the well you return to every evening, without fail, knowing that the appointed encounter is always possible in the place of faithful, consistent return. Subscribe to this channel. Like this video. Share it without hesitation with every person in your life who is thirsty, who is walking through their desert, carrying their camels, wondering if the well is real. Tell them it is real. Tell them the servant is already there. Tell them the evening is golden. Tell them the prayer has already been prayed and the answer is already on its way down the path from the city gate. Write to us at christ4life143@gmail.com. We are here for prayer, for the ongoing conversation, for the community of souls who take the living word seriously because the living word has taken them seriously. Stay tuned for the next video. Join us next time as we continue verse by verse through this inexhaustible covenant story, the story that is still happening, still unfolding, still finding its appointed ones at the wells of their ordinary and extraordinary lives.